think this is an important piece where we're using the same criteria no matter what the substance is. At least that's what we do is, no matter if it's sex, food, gambling, those are what we call the process addictions, the behavior addictions. It's the same criteria. And so, Dan, can you repeat yours? I know that I would say things a bit differently, but I'm really curious if mine would blend into yours, and yours, you've sort of generalized.
Well, that's an interesting discussion, isn't it? How we all
Yeah.
define it. Because I don't think there's one way this has to be defined. I think of the first thing being loss of control. So that means tolerance, withdrawal. I need more and more of that activity, or even if it's a substance, I need more and more of that thing to get the same effect. I may engage in things for longer periods of time. There may be more intensity that I'm seeking to get the same effect. But I'm losing control over it, that at some point I'm not able to stop. I've repeated attempts to stop, but I'm not able to. So to me, that's loss of control be the first thing. Second would be preoccupation or obsession. So that I'm consumed with this. This is what you were talking about, Tim. I'm kind of drawn to it maybe differently than a normie might. And then the third would be continuation despite negative consequences.
Okay. Because when you had that loss of control, some of the things I'm looking for are failed efforts to stop. I've tried to stop. I've thrown the magazines away. I don't go down to those bars anymore. I've locked up my account so I can't get access to them, but then I do, so those failed efforts to stop. And then you talked about the escalation, this to get the same effect. I call it the 1 beer, 2 beer. Now we're at 6-pack and we're going for a 5th to get the same effect. So you're putting tolerance and escalation under loss of control.
Yeah, I know this in some of the inventories we do, there's 10 criteria. My brain can't remember 10 criteria, so I put them into 3.
But when I think about that, I think it's important because that 10 criteria, we initially brought that over from alcohol and drug addiction. And so when we look at the criteria for is something addictive from that criteria perspective, we use the same criteria for is something a chemical addiction? Is it a gambling addiction? Is it an eating addiction? Is it a sexual addiction? We use the same criteria. And it brings up that question of, can a process be addictive? And can it be out of control? I think about a client of mine who, if he went to the gas station, he had to pay at the pump, because if he walked into the building to pay, he was unable to leave without a minimum of 5 scratchers. And also people who have an eating disorder, they know that they should get X number of calories, but they just can't bring themselves to do it. They know that they maybe shouldn't have, a second dessert, or they shouldn't grab the entire pint of Ben and Jerry's, and they can't stop themselves. And so that even if it's a process addiction, that sense of it's out of control and I've lost control. And so for me, when I think about that, it's like obvious for me that, well, of course, a process, a behavior can be addictive, even though it isn't a chemical.